All right, guys, what's up? This is gonna be a little weird. I'm gonna be popping in and out. I'm gonna be using a video of me just reading the New York Post article. That was the first thing I recorded about this because I didn't know where to find the actual lawsuit. And then I found the actual lawsuit, and that provided a lot of necessary context to what was going on. So I'm gonna keep the original recording in to just kind of like anchor the video, but I'm gonna be doing the majority of the talking like I am right now. I also wanna say, I have no legal expertise whatsoever, no legal training, so I'm reading through a lawsuit. I could be misunderstanding stuff. It's highly likely this is just a layman reading a lawsuit, and this is for entertainment purposes. Last thing, I know Tyshawn has some rabidly passionate fans that are in love with him, and if I say anything negative about him, they'll lose their shit. This is white collar on white collar violence, billion-dollar company versus millionaire. And at the end of the day, they're fighting over money. More money than you or I or probably anyone else watching this fucking video will ever know in your shitty life. So just remember that next time you're fighting about either one of these fucking people in a comment section or something. I also should say the first half of this video is basically just me trying to prank Tyshawn because that's my personal style and flavor. But the second half of the video, I actually go into some detail about the lawsuit specifically, and I actually think Tyshawn has a case and will probably get money from Supreme in this lawsuit. Top NYC skater known as Michael Jordan of the sport. I thought at the time reading this that whoever wrote this New York Post article was just calling Tyshawn the Michael Jordan of skateboarding. But no, after reading the lawsuit, you come to find the person calling Tyshawn the Michael Jordan of the sport is actually Tyshawn. Sues streetwear giant Supreme for eye-popping $26 million. Uh-oh. Yep, me again, sorry. Just here to correct the record. He actually wants $76 million. That's how much he's after. You can see only one of his little, there's an A and a B and a C, and all of those are separate. So on the A, he wants 26. On the B, he wants 25. And then on the C, he wants another 25. Streetwear giant Supreme killed a major sponsorship deal with a top pro skateboarder and then spread malicious rumors blaming him for the fallout. A new $26 million lawsuit alleges Tyshawn Jones, a 26-year-old pro skater from the Bronx, hailed as the best in the sport, is suing Supreme for not just arbitrarily killing his $1 million a year deal and his 13-year relationship with the brand, but also for destroying his young career by effectively blacklisting him. Then Tyshawn, he talked to the New York Post today, and he said, "I am saddened it has come to this, but I have a duty to myself and my career and feel a responsibility to the next generation of skateboarders to stand up for what is right." So I'm going to explain in a second why I think that's so funny, but part of the lawsuit here is this section where Tyshawn is asking for punitive damages, which is basically a claim to try to protect future athletes by disincentivizing this behavior. And how can that be best accomplished? Well, by giving me $25 million, of course. That would really teach everybody a lesson and would totally benefit future athletes also, and myself, of course, a present athlete. So I find this angle particularly funny from Tyshawn because if you look at his brand, King Skateboards, he's been caught a few times stealing graphics, but particularly like the theme of his brand, King, is like celebration of Black culture, Black excellence. He puts a lot of famous actors, musicians, civil rights leaders on his graphics. It's not lost on me how this looks, okay? Nobody wants to hear from White Cracker Esquire about race-related issues. I understand that, but it's pertinent to the case, and I don't see that I have a choice. Pretty clear what the message of the brand, what they're selling is. He got caught stealing from this artist in Ghana. He just ripped the graphic and then stuck it on his skateboard. And then I guess did not anticipate how ironic that would look. Come on, dude. You're a multimillionaire. You launched this brand that's all about, uplifting black culture, and then you're stealing from a black artist who I have no idea what that guy's net worth is, but I imagine he doesn't have a pro shoe for Adidas. It's too damn bad that the name Thief was already taken.
I could do this all day.
For moral reasons, I need 25 mil. It's like, yeah, you need 25 mil, all right. His bio on Instagram is literally a bag of money.
Hello, I like money.
I agree with Mr. Krabs and Mr. Jones regarding this monetarily motivated lifestyle. I too like money myself, which is why this summer I will be launching White Cracker skateboards. Where I'll be stealing from white crackers and giving to myself. For the first two graphics, I have selected the two most poppin' white boys in the culture right now. First graphic will feature Austin Reeves from the Los Angeles Lakers. And for our second graphic, we'll have Andy Anderson, Rubik's Cube world champion and freestyle skateboarder. And I should clarify, he did end up paying Magosco and giving him credit for the artwork. But, after the fact, after he got caught, it's obvious, his goal was, yeah, I'll just take this and then not pay him. Oh, I got caught. Okay, I'll pay him now. Another comment from Tyshawn. Supreme's success has been shaped in large part by the contributions of young talent, and I believe those contributions deserve to be respected. Okay, now remember, he's been with Supreme for 13 years. I don't know how much they were paying him for the majority of the time, but his most recent contract, he was being paid $1 million a year. Clearly, they were respecting him. They were valuing his talents for $1 million a year. I mean, that is unprecedented money in the current skateboarding climate. Almost nobody else is getting that kind of cash. I would seriously doubt anyone else on Supreme even comes close to that. Jones, a worldwide phenom, is known for his impressive skating feats across New York City, a talent that Supreme picked up on early when it offered him a sponsorship when he was only 13. But after Supreme killed the deal last September in an alleged effort to quickly shed costs, other brands started backing away from Jones too, he claims, in his lawsuit filed Monday in Manhattan in the Supreme Court. This is one of Tyshawn's major claims, which is that because VF Corp was about to sell Supreme to Luxottica for $1.6 billion, VF Corp was looking to cost cut and balance their books wherever they possibly could. Why fire Tyshawn first? Why fire your principal rider, the most important guy, when Supreme employs about 4,000 fucking skateboarders? They have Aiden Mackey, Sean Pablo, Kevin Bradley, Vincent Tuzri, a lot of dudes that don't really do much of anything anymore. Why wouldn't you trim the fat there? Why would you continue paying those kinds of guys if you were desperate to save as much money as possible? The explanation for that could be, according to this lawsuit, that Tyshawn was owed some stock options in Supreme. Value of shares he held in Supreme, the full value of which could only be realized if he was employed at the time of the new acquisition closed. So I guess part of Tyshawn's contract is that he had some stock options within Supreme, and he would only be able to realize or cash these stock options if he were employed by Supreme at the time of the sale. So he's saying he was fired like 2 or 3 weeks before this sale went through, which meant he lost out not only on the remainder of his contract, but on these apparent stock options. If you know that you have a bunch of money that you could be earning in stock options, and you only get that money if you don't get fired. There's blame on both sides in this situation, and in my opinion, it looks pretty stupid to deliberately do stuff that could get you fired and then go, oh my God, nobody could have seen this coming. So the credibility of this claim on Tyshawn's behalf, I think, will largely be determined by the amount of money that he is supposedly owed, because I guess he and his lawyers don't know how much these stock options are actually worth. They have to get that information from Supreme. If he was owed $200,000, that probably didn't factor massively into Supreme's decision to fire him. But if he was owed like $1, $2, $3 million, maybe even more, I mean, that could definitely be a motivator. And also should have been a motivator for Tyshawn to not do anything dumb. Supreme allegedly told multiple third parties Tyshawn was kicked off Supreme for breaching his agreement with them. This is from the actual lawsuit. The termination notice is premised upon a purported material breach by Tyshawn, namely one photo shoot depicting Tyshawn wearing Marc Jacobs apparel disseminated on social media in August of 2024. So Tyshawn is claiming that in the letter, this Marc Jacobs photo shoot was in violation of his contract, and that's why they needed to fire him. This is sort of a legally wordy segment, but I think it says that Tyshawn is able to work with at least 3 non-Supreme brands under the condition that Supreme approves of them. He's able to, model for them, do business for them, whatever. I think what probably happened is he did not get approval to work with Marc Jacobs, and so Supreme, if they already were looking for a reason to fire him, may have used this photo shoot as a reason to let him go. They spend some time in the lawsuit outlining other brands that Tyshawn has worked with: Gucci, David Yurman, Alexander McQueen, Willie Chavaria, Prada, Louis Vuitton. I think they're doing this to indicate that, yeah, this was like common practice between Supreme and Tyshawn. He would just model stuff. So firing him abruptly for this Marc Jacobs photo shoot is out of line with the way the partnership functioned in the past. So here basically is saying, even if this, if it's true that Marc Jacobs shoot was in violation of his contract, he's blaming Supreme, saying, well, Supreme never told me that I couldn't do it, so I did it. When Tyshawn was first approached by such third parties about photo shoot participation or involvement in modeling campaigns featuring non-Supreme brands, and prior to being featured in editorials, Tyshawn was transparent and open about those opportunities to Supreme senior executives. So he's saying, in the past, I have asked permission and they never had an issue with it. Specifically, this was their position. We don't want to get in your way so long as you're not doing anything for another skateboarding brand or a skateboarding team. We don't have a problem with it and don't want to stand in the way of you making money. It sounds to me like they were tolerant of him doing these photo shoots because they knew he stood to make a lot of money from doing them. Tyshawn's lawsuit spends a lot of time trying to convince the reader that these non-Supreme photo shoots were not only helpful to Tyshawn, they were actually really good for Supreme as well. Specifically saying these shoots had a strong positive impact on Supreme, serving to elevate the standing of the brand as its skateboarding team reached corners of the luxury fashion market not previously achieved. They're really trying to hammer home this idea that not only was, Tyshawn basically making extra money on the side, but it was also good for Supreme and they should have been happy about it. They're really insistent upon that. But what's funny is they weren't able to provide a quote or any comment from Supreme basically encouraging this behavior or saying anything about it other than we will allow you to do it because we want you to make money. I'm of the opinion that Supreme probably does not mind it, and it might even benefit them. But I think that Tyshawn's case is really like leaning into this, and it's not really doing much of a good job substantiating or explaining how this would be beneficial to Supreme. As far as I can tell, they never stated, oh yes, we love when you do this, Tyshawn. Tyshawn actually supplies an example of how Kyle Demers, who at Supreme, how he reacted to one of these photo shoots with Louis Vuitton, and he had turned a blind eye to it. Now, Tyshawn's lawsuit is framing this as every time he does one of these classy photo shoots, it's exceptionally beneficial to both Tyshawn and Supreme. Meanwhile, this is an example of an actual reaction that Supreme had to one of these photo shoots. And by the way, they make it clear that Tyshawn in this lawsuit only does all these really high-profile modeling gigs on wearing apparel or accessories of high-end, rare, and/or premier luxury goods of global luxury brands. They're conveniently leaving out the Warby Parker deal that Tyshawn did, which is a discount, basically drop shipping glasses company. Believe me, as a guy who wears glasses, I would fucking know just how shitty they are. These are his pro model Warbies right here. It's like, dude, you chose some shit that looks like the Jonas Brothers wore it. You're supposed to be the cool fashion guy, elevating skateboarding to corners of the luxury fashion market not previously achieved. This looks like the shit a European guy would buy at the gas station when he's visiting LA. I mean, what the checkerboard print sunglasses? What the fuck is wrong with you, man? He's a fraud. Tyshawn's a noob. Look at him, he's a noob. Serving to elevate the standing of the brand as its skateboarding team reached corners of the luxury fashion market not previously achieved. Really specifically saying, not only am I the MJ of skateboarding, but also nobody that's ever rode for Supreme was a model before me. Come on, dude. Alex Olson, Dylan Reeder, you're not the first hot guy to skate for Supreme, bro. And thank you to Technofaza for leaving this comment saying, OG Supreme and New York team riders from the mid-90s like Peter Beachy and Ryan Hickey modeled for Calvin Klein and shit back then. Also, Harold Hunter did some stuff with Tommy Hilfiger. Genuine old head knowledge here. I mean, look at this guy, Peter Beachy. Oh my God. This is him now, by the way, still modeling. Absolute stud. I gotta be honest, Tyshawn, you're not really up there with these guys. You're getting mogged, bro. You're low-key chopped, fam. And you might think it's odd that he would make this factually inaccurate claim by saying he was the first Supreme rider to be a model. And there's a reason that he's doing this, because he is trying to make the claim here and in other parts of this lawsuit that he brought Supreme to new heights. He has been a massive force in elevating the brand. So these like random comments about Tyshawn being the MJ of skateboarding is like, oh, Tyshawn is jerking himself off again, even in a legal document. What a surprise. No, there's actually a reason that they're setting things up this way. Just a little side note, this is the saddest attempt I've ever seen at inflating somebody's importance. You're supposed to have incredible lawyers, Tyshawn. What the fuck is this? Tyshawn has achieved notoriety to the point where he is no longer referred to as Tyshawn Jones, but simply Tyshawn. Yeah, that's his fucking name, man. And he's the only Tyshawn in skateboarding. So stupid. The names Tyshawn and Supreme go hand in hand, akin to the relationship shared by Nike and Michael Air Jordan. Jordan never got fired by Nike. This is Elliot Hill, the CEO of Nike. Now, Michael Jordan could walk into Elliot Hill's office, unzip his pants, and pee directly onto Elliot Hill's forehead while streaming it on Instagram Live. And you know what Elliot would have to say about that? He would say, thank you, Michael. Very cool. Nike owns Jordan. Jordan is a subsidiary of the Nike brand. Nike is worth, I think, $31 billion. Jordan is worth $6 billion, making Jordan brand about a fifth of the overall value of Nike.
Damn, son.
That's what Jordan brings to the table, a fifth of the fucking brand. Now, Tyshawn owns a couple brands. He owns Hardy's Hardware. He owns Brick Underneath. He owns King Skateboards. Supreme's most recent valuation, it was just sold for $1.6 billion. Do you think any of those brands are worth anywhere near a fifth of $1.6 billion? No, I don't think so. Additionally, it doesn't even fucking matter because Supreme doesn't own any of those brands. This comparison is not based in reality. And if you're thinking, well, Tyshawn's won SOTY twice, two people already did that before him, and then somebody else just did it again, though I'm sure Tyshawn would probably tell you differently. Most people only have the balls to compare themselves to one NBA legend. You could call me the MJ of skateboarding, but then I'm gonna give myself a Kobe graphic as well.
I think with, gaining success and as you grow, you should always stay humble.
Jordan or Kobe?
Might as well take a both.
And I'm not saying Tyshawn wasn't an important part of building Supreme's branding. I do believe that he is, and Supreme was willing to pay him $1 million a year. They clearly also believe that he was, but you can't compare yourself to Michael Jordan, dude. It sounds fucking dumb. And it seems like Tyshawn was given permission to do just about whatever the fuck it is that he wanted to. What they specifically did not want him to do is any skateboarding stuff, wearing other companies' merchandise. No skateboarding. Even more specifically, with prior agreements between the parties, the agreement contemplates Tyshawn's mostly exclusive endorsement of Supreme and other related obligations to support or to promote Supreme, including prominently wearing Supreme apparel whenever he is engaged in skateboarding. So if he's on a skateboard, he needs to be wearing Supreme or they're not okay with it. Louis Vuitton skateboard, Louis Vuitton jacket. These are a Louis Vuitton Timberland collab. This got 869,000 likes. That's almost 1 million likes. At that point, I'd imagine Supreme is like, we pay this guy $1 million a year to skate in our stuff. He's also skating in Louis Vuitton in this video too. Literally the only thing he's not supposed to do.
I should be a pro streamer, but I chose skateboarding.
Man, you corny!
Just so there's no confusion, time-wise, these Louis Vuitton posts are from January of 2024. Tyshawn was fired in September of 2024. Tyshawn makes the argument he was acting in good faith. Now, I don't see how you could possibly, with this piece of evidence, come to the conclusion that him skating twice in Louis Vuitton gear when he has a contract that specifically forbids him from doing that. In the past, he had pretty much been given freedom to do just about whatever he wanted modeling-wise, wearing other clothes. How this couldn't be perceived by Supreme as a deliberate violation. Then he turns around and goes, I never meant to do anything wrong. And then he sues them. And a large part of this lawsuit is the idea that Supreme has damaged Tyshawn's reputation. They say it's irretrievable damage. It's irreparable. His young career. That's my bad. Let me actually read Tyshawn's full list of qualifications. Please don't sue me, Tyshawn. I'm reading your whole bio here. Young, athletic, handsome, marketable model known for being one of the best professional skateboarders in the history of the sport. Please me now. Dude, if you're so worried about your reputation, like, what do you think it looks like to other brands when there is video evidence of you violating the agreement that you made with them, then you sue them? Now, the flip side of that is maybe Tyshawn is aware of how bad this looks, and he's only suing Supreme for all this money because he genuinely believes that his career is actually over. Where if you check his Instagram page, just side note, hopefully nobody tells Louis Vuitton or CEO of Mercedes-Benz Formula One team, Toto Wolff, that this guy is unemployable. Now, it's pretty hard to make a determination, like on the surface, based on how much business or opportunity Tyshawn may or may not have lost out on because of what Supreme said about him, which is that we kicked him off for violating his contract. But what's interesting is that Tyshawn and his team make no attempt to actually present a case for that. Like, you would think that if I had lost all of this business in 2025, end of 2024, because Supreme executives were telling people they had to kick me off the team, then I would have no issue providing that data to prove my point. But instead, they specifically say they will not be providing that data because what Supreme said about Tyshawn is so bad, it's so disparaging that it is self-evident that he has been cost money. For me, as an observer of this, I'm like, okay, it sounds like you guys don't want to supply any of this evidence because you don't have it. According to my bro, Fluoride Farm, basically, you know, a lot of this lawsuit crap is just saying things because procedurally you're supposed to say them or something. So I'm looking into a lot of this stuff, and I think I'm holding it to like maybe a different standard and not understanding fully how it fits into the larger picture. I think the general tone of the lawsuit overall is pretty exaggerated, but I think it's supposed to be, you know, when you're trying to win $76 million. All right, so I've spent a lot of time just making fun of Tyshawn, but I do think that he may be able to actually get some money out of this, even if about 85% of it seems like complete horseshit. I think as long as 10 to 15% of it, there's something there, he might be able to actually get paid off of this. I've demonstrated, I think, that Tyshawn was in clear violation of his contract with the Louis Vuitton skateboarding clip and the Louis Vuitton, you know, like fashion show ollie or whatever the fuck. According to this lawsuit, that is not the reason that Supreme gave for firing Tyshawn. They seem to just sort of arbitrarily select this Marc Jacobs photo shoot, even though it's pretty similar to a bunch of other photo shoots that he had already done. So I really have no idea why they would do this, considering the Louis Vuitton clip is pretty much a smoking gun in this case. I don't think it would fully exonerate Supreme from everything, but I think it would be a strong indication that because it's a large theme in Tyshawn's case that he was acting in good faith, I think that given that clip, it's clear that he was not acting in good faith and he was deliberately violating the terms of the agreement. He has been intentionally pissing them off for some time now. So despite the fact that Tyshawn was doing stuff he should not have been doing, it may turn out to be irrelevant because this is a clause in the contract. It says the agreement contains a breach and right of termination clause, providing that either party could terminate the agreement immediately upon written notice in certain enumerated circumstances, but in all events only after receiving a written notice of default from the other party and failing to cure same within 30 days following such receipt. So basically this is saying if somebody has an issue, either party has an issue with the way that business is being done, they have an obligation per the contract to notify the other party of this grievance. Only after they have a meeting to cure or rectify this issue, only then can one party terminate the agreement. So it seems like Supreme did not attempt to have this meeting and they just terminated his contract immediately. Tyshawn's team is claiming no matter what it is that Tyshawn did, they would need to have this meeting or else the termination would be wrongful and that would give him grounds to sue. So here's the other area it looks like Tyshawn might be able to get some money from Supreme. It says the agreement contains a no disparagement clause prescribing the parties from engaging in a conduct that might tend to cast or portray the other in a poor, unflattering, or negative light or give rise to any similar inference. Also, the agreement contains a confidentiality clause. After Supreme fired Tyshawn's team is saying that they had to keep that a secret. They weren't allowed to talk about the agreement. They're saying they have evidence. Tyshawn talked to this famous photographer, and also he's hearing it from people in the industry that even James Jebbia, who's like the head honcho at Supreme, that people are going around, they're telling other fashion fucking people that they had to let go of Tyshawn because he violated the contract. Now, whether or not that is true, per this clause, they're still not supposed to do that. So I'm going to kind of summarize, I think, what may have happened from my point of view. This is all just speculation, only reading also one side of the story. This is Tyshawn's argument. We have no idea what Supreme will say, if we'll ever hear anything about it, or if they'll just settle it out of court, which seems like it'll be pretty likely. Just based off of Tyshawn's argument, which I think there are a lot of holes in, I think he's just like kind of throwing whatever out there, hoping that some of this sticks. I think Tyshawn was probably a pain in the ass to work with. I also think that Louis Vuitton post upset Supreme. Then what I would guess happened after that is he did the Marc Jacobs photo shoot without asking permission, without communicating that he was going to do that, when he knew Supreme was already kind of pissed off with him. And I think they chose to fire him over that and be like, okay, if this guy really completely violated the contract and then just went out and did another photo shoot without even consulting us, yeah, fuck this guy. And I think they fired him. The timing of this, I think, does look pretty bad for Supreme. I think it would have been a lot smarter for them if they had just fired him right after the Louis Vuitton thing. But the fact that they just fired him with no meeting, a week or something, or however long it was before the sale of the company, I think looks pretty suspicious. And I honestly think that factored into their decision. I think they were unhappy with the arrangement, and I think they probably made the decision I don't think we want to pay this guy stock options, when in their minds he probably did not deserve them. I think there were probably events that transpired leading up to that point that made them feel that way. I feel like it was a two birds, one stone situation where they're like, yeah, this guy's violating the contract. We're about to sell the company. Do we really want to pay this dude out given his previous behavior? Probably not. It also probably made the decision easier, considering that whatever they didn't pay to Tyshawn, they got to pocket. And if Tyshawn's lawyers can prove that, because the timing does look bad, I think that's one of the most likely areas in which he could be awarded some money from my point of view. Yeah, I think that's most of it. And as far as Tyshawn suing over the defamation and that clause being there, I don't think Supreme thought he would sue. I think the guys working for Supreme, they obviously talk about everything that's going on. They obviously talk about gossip. They probably told people yeah, we fired him because he was being an asshole. And then Tyshawn heard that and he's like, okay, I'm going to sue them because they're not allowed to say that. The question is, and this is what I suppose Tyshawn will be trying to calculate here, is this lawsuit, do his lawyers think he can make enough money off this lawsuit that will offset further career and reputational damages? Suing your former employer is an extremely bad look to potential future employers. That's going to make them not want to hire you. So either he really thinks that his value in the marketplace has diminished, and this is like the only way he can make some money right now, or he thinks he can like make a bunch of money off of this. I think it would be pretty funny if Tyshawn got $76 million out of this. I don't think that he will, but if you think Tyshawn is insufferable now, imagine how annoying he'll be if he makes almost $100 million off of a lawsuit where basically he was being a shithead and then got fired and then is suing over technicalities. I hope more of this goes public. I hope they don't just immediately settle. I'm hoping for a bloodbath. This kind of shit doesn't happen often, so when it does, I'm pretty excited about it. Thanks, Tyshawn. I love you. I hope you win $1 billion. Pardon me if the liquor's talking now, but I feel like you and I, Tyshawn, we've always had something special going on ever since the Switch Ollie table incident. I think there's a dynamic between us that's undeniable. You know, I think we're star-crossed lovers. In another life, we were meant to be together. But for now, we have to just play this game of telephone over the internet where I harass you and then you respond in epic style, like the physical athletic beast that you are.